is the seventh 752 Mentalism Square. And to briefly go over the idea of this study, it's titled, Where Do Our Guesses Come From? It's a study in randomness and a study of, it's a mathematical study along with a study in parapsychology, as far as, I suppose you could say mentalism. Where do our guesses come from? Telepathy, psychic phenomenon. And this square is known as a 752 square. There are 20 of these squares that were composed from the time period of December 26, 2019 through November 24th of 2021. And there are 20 squares. As you can see, it's a 5x5 grid. So there are 25 three-digit numbers. And this square, each 25 number square, represents a 35-day period of time, because there is an invisible line between Friday and Monday. That's between the purple column and the green column, and that would represent Saturday and Sunday, or Shabbat and Sunday, and those are not counted, although they do count as time, but they're not marked as numbers. And there's something to that, where 5 are visible and 2 are not visible. And that's a theme that is prominent in this study, because that's a theme that shows up in different places in reality. In the Bible, in general life circumstances. And I'll give an example that's not biblical, but something that would convey this idea of the 5, 2, and the 7. The 7 specifically composed of 5 and 2, as opposed to being composed of 3 and 4, or 1 and 6. If you look at there's if you've heard of Chabad Lubavitch, it's a Hasidic movement started in the 1700s, and with Rabbi Shneur Zalman Liadi, I think his name was Rabbi Shneur Zalman Baruchov, or Baruchovich, and there were 7 Rebbes. Rebbes is like a master, like a leader, a Hasidic master. It comes from the word rabbi, but it's a little bit more than just a rabbi. It's a sort of like a leader, a spiritual guide, a sage, saintly individual, etc. And there are 7 of these Rebbes. They call them Admorim. Admor is an acronym for Adonenu Moreinu V'Rabbeinu, which means our master, our teacher, and our rabbi. Adonenu, our master. Adon is master. Moreinu is like our. It's like a higher way of saying teacher, like a guide maybe, and then, or mentor maybe, and then Rabbeinu is our rabbi. So there are 7 Admorim of Chabad. Now, if you look at the pictures, starting with the first one, you will see that there are 5 portraits. I mean, back in his day, it wasn't pictures. I mean, there might be pictures, but usually you'll see a portrait, a painting. But at least you'll see his image of the first Rebbe and the second Rebbe, the third. I think not the second. The second is called the middle one. The middle Rebbe we don't have, but the Tzemach Tzedek and the other ones. There's basically 2 that are missing. I forgot which 2. I think it's the Mitzvah Rebbe is no picture, and the Marash is no picture. But all the others have pictures, from the 1st to the 7th. So there we have an example of something in reality where there are 5 which we see a picture of, And the most famous, of course, is the seventh one. I mean, everyone knows that picture. The Lubavitch Rebbe is pictures everywhere these days, or many places, I should say. But back to the idea is that there's 5 that are visible and 2 that are hidden. Now, people say that there are pictures of the Marash and the Mitzler Rebbe, but I haven't seen them, and they're very rare, and they're not, for practical purposes, we can say there's no pictures. No, most people you ask won't be able to identify a picture of either the Mitzler Rebbe or the Marash. I hope I'm not confusing that with the Rashab, but I think it's the Marash and the Mitzler Rebbe. There's no pictures. Those 5 and 2. We see this pattern of 5 and 2, and there's many other examples, but I chose to give an example of a case that's not biblical because it's something that is it trickles down into reality at a practical level, like things that you can observe that are not necessarily abstract letters on a page, but things that you can see in reality. And so that's just one example. I can give more, but I'll leave it at that for now. And so this study, these 752 squares represent a 35-day period of time. And there are, like I said, there are 25. There's 35-day period of time, and there's 20 of these squares. And so 20 times 35 is 700. So for 700 days, I was collecting guesses. And the person, there was one main individual that I collected the guesses from, but there were other people, I think, at the time that I asked guesses from. But they were just guesses. And it was such a systematic procedure. I don't think procedure is the word, but systematic process, systematic work, and it happened so mechanically that I became intrigued by it and wanted to study it, and to say that the things that we call random may not in fact be random. We call it random because we can't identify it. Even AI. I ran the numbers through AI, at least one of these, not this particular square, but other squares like this, and AI could not detect a pattern. But it's not to say that there isn't a pattern. There's a whole frontier that AI hasn't come to yet, the frontier of the metaphysical. And that's what leads me to the question of where do our guesses come from. These are all guesses, and this 752 square started at the top left-hand corner, yellow square 211. That corresponds to Thursday, July 23rd of 2020. And then each day was just another guess from, not for myself, from this person that I asked. And then it went for 35 days until the bottom, E5, would be 794, the blue bottom right-hand corner. And that would represent Wednesday, August 26th, 2020. Now, going back to July 23rd, the Thursday, the top yellow, the Parsha was Devarim, and the Daf Yomi was Shabbat, page 139, track to Shabbat 139. And the bottom is Wednesday, August 26th, which was the 6th of Elul, kind of around the time we're around right now, except 6 years ago. And the 5780, the year, and the Parsha was Kitetse, and last week was Parsha Kitetse. This week is Kitabo. So it's a similar kind of year to this year. And the Daf Yomi on that day, the 6th of Elul, or August 26th, was Eruvin 17. And the Daf Yomi plays a big part into this structure because of the time structure of when it was started, and the Gregorian calendar, the Julian calendar. That's a whole other topic. But I think we'll leave it at this for now. Oh, got to make my plug. If anyone has any ideas, if you can identify any patterns in this, whether they be gematriatic patterns or any kind of numeric pattern, prime numbers versus non-prime numbers versus anything at all. I'm now bringing this forward to the world to present to anyone who would have input on this, because I'm diligently seeking answers and looking to bring a new element to the table in the pursuit of truth. And that is the element of the theme of where do our guesses come from. If we can enter that space of where do our guesses come from, numbers is the place to do it. Numbers is the place, and then numbers is the destination, and it's the journey itself. We enter in to the number. We enter into a number with a number. And in numbers, we see numbers. This is the parable of how we can come to the table with a new, excuse the pun, variable to the equation on how we can discern truth claims.